Hey, Kathy, can you do a quick audio check, please? Kathy, can you please do a quick audio check? Hey, Kathy, can you do a quick audio check, please?
Hanging going on back there.
Kathy, can you please do a quick audio check? Hey, Kathy, can you do a quick audio check, please?
Hanging going on back there.
Kathy, can you please do it?
Oh, geez, we're like. Oh, geez.
Hi. Can you hear me?
All right. What time have we got? Is that 6:59? So how do we know who we've got on video?
Can you guys hear me? Kevin, can you hear me?
Is that you,
Hi,
Miss Kathy?
hi,
Wells?
Kathy. I can hear you.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Kathy is not muted, so that anytime she would.
I'm gonna mute again, but I just figured Kevin wanted to hear me, so.
We want to hear dogs barking and things. Come on.
Well, she's outside right now, but she might any moment.
All right.
They can only hear us if your mic is on, so just make sure you're turning your mic on and off as you need to. Otherwise, they can't hear us in the Zoom meeting. Correct, Kevin?
I think we can take our masks off if we're sitting this far apart. All right.
I don't think we're supposed to, right?
Just about ready. I can't. Are we 6 feet apart? You've been keeping them on? I can keep them on. Okay. Everybody ready? All right. We'll call the meeting to order of the Plainville Board of Education for September 14th, 2020. And, pardon me? Yeah, it's on. And we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Martinez, how about leading us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We do not have any special presentations this evening, and that brings us to approval of minutes. We have several sets of minutes here, which we could do as a group or we could do individually. So I will let somebody make a motion and see where it brings us.
Madam Chair, I request that we approve the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 regular board meeting and special meeting of the Board of Education. At the same time, approve the minutes of the meeting of June 15th, 2020. Approve the minutes also of the special meeting on June 25th, which included the Finance and Facilities Committee. Item D, request approval of the minutes of July 23rd, 2020. And finally, and also request approval of the minutes of July 30th, 2020. And finally, to request approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2020.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second, Mrs. Martinez. Are there any corrections or comments or anything like that? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. And that's going to bring us to citizens' comments. We don't have any just citizens here. We do have some citizens here, but we don't have any just citizens here. Is there anybody on line or anything like that? Kevin, can you tell if there's someone that oh, you don't have a microphone? She's just watching?
Okay.
Okay. That's okay. No one else? Okay. Thank you very much. And that brings us to our council liaison, Ms. Puglisi.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I didn't know, mask on, mask off. I'll keep it on. Thank you for having me tonight. I haven't been here in a while. We have all been cloistered in our online meetings. So it is nice to be back in person to see everybody. Just as a point of information, on September 21st, the town council will also begin their in-person meetings. We have a tentative arrangement for the council's chambers for the council to be present along with staff and anybody else that has to be there. However, there's only room for 10 attendees, so it's going to be a little bit different for a while. But you know, again, we will we have a smaller space than is here, so our limitations are different than yours. But we will begin in-person meetings on September 21st, so it'll be good to see everybody once again. I'll review a few topics that we covered at our last council meeting, which was August 17th. The beginning of August, we all experienced the August 4th tropical storm, and it resulted in approximately 57% of Plainville customers losing power. Most residents were reconnected by Friday evening, and a handful remained on Saturday night. The police and roadways department spent considerable amounts of overtime making the roads safe right after the storm ended, and Public Works did a tremendous job removing brush from the sides of the roads. So we appreciate all that was done. It was also necessary to hire Holcomb Tree Service to assist in large tree cleanups, particularly at Trumbull Park. I would like to, we have already done this, but I would also like to give thanks to the Plainville Volunteer Fire Company, Don Machini in the Roadways Department, Dave Emery in the Buildings and Grounds Department, Chief Matt Catania and the Police Department, and Chief Kevin Toner from the Fire Department. Special thanks particularly go to our Fire Marshal, Ron Deaver, who also serves as the Emergency Operations Coordinator for the town of Plainville. So it was, as we all remember, a massive effort of coordinating and communicating with the power company along with all the services that helped us get all those things done. So we were happy it turned out the way it did. The town pretty much made it through this storm, resulting in power outages pretty well, considering what happened. Many other communities in the state of Connecticut had a far different outcome than we did. So we were pleased that it turned out the way it did. The estimated cost for the cleanup will be in the $100,000 range for the town. And it's unclear whether we will get FEMA funds to help cover this, but certainly we're going to attempt to get any kind of compensation from the federal government to take care of that. We also received a grant from the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $2,722,000 for the reconstruction of the taxiway at Robertson Airport. The taxiway is approximately 3,700 feet long, and it includes the installation of new taxiway lights. It is anticipated that federal and state funds will cover 100% cost of this project. So that was some good news. Robertson Airport is, of course, a major asset to our town. Not every town has an airport, and the Federal Aviation Administration continues to support it in a very major way financially. One other project that's going on out at Robertson Airport is we are painting hangars 3, 4, and 6. Interstate Aviation, who manages the airport, has set aside $50,000 to make the improvement. And the Aviation Commission also is going to be spending $300,000 off of their funds in order to make improvements at our airport. There's parts of the airport that are aging and certain systems that need to be upgraded, but we have the money in hand, so we're going to go ahead and take care of some of those things at the airport. We also, during our summer hiatus, looked at a new police union contract, which expired on June 30th. During the previous 2 months, Chief Catania and Robert Lee met with the police union representatives to discuss the negotiations of the contracts. They were able to do this without labor attorneys, which saved the town an estimated $10,000. It pretty much went quite well as far as negotiations are concerned. The strategy focused mostly on salary and benefits and one additional item. Based on the negotiation, the salary increases for the police will be 3% for each of the next 3 years. Their premium contributions for health insurance will remain at 17% and then increase by 1% each of the remaining 2 years of the contract. It was ratified. The tentative agreement was ratified by the police union, and so we were pleased that some of these negotiations, as we all know, can get mired down and dragged out. But I think this was a good outcome for both the police and for the town. It showed the police that the town of Plainville does support what they do. We want to support them in any way that we can, and so it was a very favorable outcome all around. So we were happy to see that happened. Regarding COVID-19, our update back in August was mostly about your schools reopening. So we all know how that went, and I'm sure we'll hear an update this evening about it. However, the state health department is still finalizing guidelines for reopening senior centers across Connecticut. They have remained closed for some very obvious reasons, but that population certainly does need to start to re-socialize, make contact with folks, and try to get together in as safe manner as possible. So there is a plan being put together for the senior centers to reopen on whatever basis they can, whether it's a limited basis, limited programming, but people need to be able to see each other, as you can well imagine. And finally, we went over the financial dashboard regarding the year-end fiscal 20 budget. The result, we ended up with a surplus of $1.25 million. This includes $800,000 in expenditure savings and $450,000 in additional revenues. This will increase the unassigned fund balance to $11 million or 17.6% as of June 30th. So we ended up in a very positive financial position for the year end. These are unaudited, but they will probably be very close once our auditors do their work and get through the end of it. And so that's pretty much what has happened. We're going to be meeting next Monday, as I said. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have tonight. Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. And thank you, Chairperson Puglisi. And I wanted to thank Kevin Ross and Dan Demers, who are back there recording and controlling the technology and the live Zoom meeting that's happening and the YouTube channel and our live hybrid Board of Education meeting here tonight. It was a lot of work to set up this spider web of lines and different configuration, but I'm glad we could be together in person. And we appreciate all the work that went into that. So I just wanted to give an overview of the reopening highlights and just some areas of challenge that we continue to face as we move forward. As you know, we had to make a decision based on limited data from and information and guidance from the state. So far, there have been, since the final 50-page guidance document from the state came out in July, there's been a total of 13 addendums that have been added to that. So it's really a moving target, and it's kind of a challenging process to keep up with it all. But I think our district has done a really good job of doing so, and I'm really proud of our team. So I'm happy to share some of the highlights and just some of the success stories and areas we continue to work on. So when we were given an option of opening in the model that we believed was best for Plainville, based on the health metrics and other factors that go into making those decisions. In speaking with the superintendent groups around the state and in speaking with our regional health director and the state health director meetings, the decision was made to open in a hybrid model. And based on that, we did a lot of work to set it up so that families would have the best childcare coverage that they could with different different constraints that families have related to their jobs and childcare coverage, because on the days that they're not in school, they're in school 2 days per week and they're doing remote learning at home 3 days per week. We understand that decision has impacts as any model would. And I think I've shared a lot with the town and with the board about the amount of thought that went into really making that decision. But we ended up going with a hybrid model and sending out a request for anyone who wanted to change cohorts. Basically, we cohorted in two groups based on the last name A through L for cohort A and M through Z for cohort B. And then there was also the option that's required by the state to offer families an option of having a fully remote learning experience. So, and that number has changed over the last month or so, and I'll share those numbers. But basically, we honored every request to move from either, so if your last name started with a Z and you want it to be in cohort A because of childcare needs and coverage and working that out, we honored that. So when all was said and done, we came fairly close to even between the two cohorts. We had, and they're designated by tracks in Power School, which is our student management system, but we had 941 students in Group A, 794 in Group B, and then in Group C, as of today, we have 425 students. So 425 students in the district are doing fully remote learning 5 days per week. And that number has increased since the original number. And I can share some details about that as well. And then we have a final group of cohort D students who attend 4 days per week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And those are all of our preschool students who remote learning really doesn't work well for at all because of the very much in-person need that those students have at their 3 and 4 years old. It's really difficult to learn the skills they learn in preschool on a computer screen. There are some things you can do to reinforce that on the Wednesdays that they're off. And that's what we do. But in-person is best for preschool. And following the guidance, we were able to have the preschoolers coming in every day. And we also have about exactly 13 students other than preschool who are in 4 days per week due to their level of needs that they have for in-person learning. So in total, that takes us to our 2,256 students in the district. Just going through some of the highlights, I have to say the administrative team worked tirelessly throughout the summer in preparation for the reopening of school with changing guidance, the requirement to submit a plan in about 3 weeks' time that ended up being over 30 pages long with an incredible amount of detail and thought that had to go into every aspect of reopening the school. Changing metrics, health metrics, changing parameters that we based our decisions on, and a lot of factors that we really had to consider. So I'm really proud of the work our team did. The building level leadership was incredible. I think that the videos, the idea came out from, I think it was Principal Johnson originally, from the graduation preparation videos that we did for the graduation ceremony about posting videos. They were really helpful for explaining what to expect when you come back, because being out of school for, over 5 months, counting the summer, it was probably very intimidating, and I know families were concerned. So those videos were very helpful, and I appreciate the work the principals did with their teams to produce those. I would say that the communication, I've received a lot of feedback from families about the communication from, the district level. I send a lot, as you know, but also from our schools has been really, really well received by the families. I think just the more that they know, the less details they're forced to kind of fill in the blanks on their own. So I think we can always do better, and we're always looking for different ways to communicate, but I think the communication was strong. Again, with Kevin and his team, the technology supports, were significant. I have contacts all around the state, obviously in different school districts, and I have to say that our technology team and the work that they did to prepare for our reopening was pretty incredible. A lot of it took resources that we put into, the different grants that we're eligible for, and also kind of thinking ahead at the end of last year as we're preparing to make shifts in what we were purchasing. We were really poised for success, and other districts don't have necessarily that same situation. And then the staff that we have that makes it all work is incredible. I have to say that the flexibility and adaptability of our entire staff throughout this period, I know it's nerve-wracking and there's a lot of anxiety about coming back. We had to do quite a bit of work, and you'll see later in the agenda memorandums of agreement or understanding in the new business regarding our teachers union and also paraprofessionals and tutors, because coming back to live instruction and working with kids in person, there were a lot of things that we wanted to make sure that we were taking care of our staff, taking care of our kids, and still meeting the needs of our kids and moving their education forward. So I think that we came up with a really good balance, which were agreed to by their leadership. So our students are learning. They're learning well, both in person and online. And just taking a quick walk around the buildings on Friday, I came to the high school for a couple hours, just not interrupting classes or crossing cohorts, because I'm conscious of that, but just being here and then walking through and just seeing the things that were happening. Then I spent time for about an hour at Linden and also Wheeler. And I know Dave was at Toffelon in the middle school. We've been, to all the schools the first week of school, but just really impressive to see the kids learning from home up on the Promethean board. You can see their faces and hear them talking, and just the integration that had to be done. It's not easy. Just setting up this board meeting tonight, it gave me a little taste of it, but with Kevin at the helm. But it's a challenge because, using the document cameras and sharing the screen and being able to see those students at home who are both in your hybrid home group and also the cohort C group that are fully remote, and having 7 or 8 or 9 kids in front of you who you're doing classroom management, making sure the safety, everything's being done well. It's quite a balance for the educators, and I couldn't be more impressed or proud of the work they're doing. It's not, we're obviously going to keep learning. It's not perfect yet, but really a big step up from the last spring when we didn't have as much time to prepare. Again, with our fully remote students, our instructional resource teachers at the elementary level, and we have some teachers who are not able to be at school, so we put in place ADA accommodation so that they can still be working from home and providing instruction for the students who are learning from home. So I heard of districts that had, significant number of teachers in that position, dozens or more. And we honestly have less than a handful. So there are positives and there are challenges with that because we have 425 students doing remote learning. So they're serving in kind of a case manager capacity, along with the teachers and along with the instructional resource teachers and tutors and paraprofessionals who are all being thoughtfully assigned to support those kids who are doing remote learning. But it is a challenge to balance all the different groups, I will say. Our food service programs, we have a new food service manager, Ashley Onion. She's been tremendous. She started, late in the summer, and she just jumped in and has been outstanding. You'll see one of my report items is related to the USDA's free meals for kids through December 31st. So that was just promoted on Friday in my message, and nutrition and stability is important. So that's another feature that she's been able to bring to the district, along with a lot of other ideas for the grab and go meals, and just being able to feed students in a way that's very different. You can see all the folding tables and the ones we're at. They have some students in each cafeteria and then in classrooms. So just thinking about all those details, you can't just load kids at a table within 6 feet or more of each other and having their masks off and eating. So in the different PPE that we purchased, and the plastic shields and things like that, it was all thought through in tremendous detail. Our busing, I originally had, nightmares about the potential for busing problems. But the transportation arrangements with Tim at DACO and with Sam, our business manager, who's not here tonight, but he did a great job of helping to arrange for monitors to be on the buses for the first couple of weeks to make sure that we were helping the drivers to reinforce the policies of wearing the mask at the bus stop and on the bus, and then just the seating to the back first, and then offloading from front to back. It's really been incredibly smooth, no problems at all, no complaints, no concerns. Kids have been great. Honestly, our students, I wouldn't say it's a surprise because we have great kids, but the level of compliance and, just understanding how important it is to follow all the rules. The kids have been great. I've heard that from every single school, every principal, teachers. Our kids have been outstanding. Almost no discipline problems. It's been really great as far as following the mitigation strategy. So those things are what's going to help to keep us open and not having to shut down cohorts or even schools if there's a community outbreak. The music department's really adapted quickly. The question was, how are we going to do music and the arts and the specials, and we've taken a lot of creative steps to make that possible with different rehearsals outside and other creative instruments for, teaching music instruction and playing instruments, and despite the restrictions around singing and playing. Professional development, you're going to hear a lot about that later or at least a little bit of an overview about that from Dave Lewandowski, our assistant superintendent, who worked on that presentation with Tawana Graham Douglas. So you'll hear about that shortly, but it really helped to prepare us for a different way of teaching and a different way of ensuring our kids are learning, and also the other pieces that are critical to our continued success in Plainville. And like I said, our teachers are working really, really hard to support the SEL needs of our kids. This is a challenging time to come to school, to learn a very different way. And, there are fears, there are anxieties out there that are pretty prevalent in our kids and in our parents. So just really reinforcing the SEL, social and emotional learning importance has been critical. I have to say that and I believe Julie Samard's on the call. Kevin, is Julie there? Yeah. So I asked Julie to be online in case we had some questions for my next item on my report related to case management and communication system overview. But Julie, I asked if she would be our COVID compliance liaison over the summer, in the early summer. It's an important role. Some superintendents decide to keep it themselves or assign somebody else, but I think that if you're looking for medical advice and having someone with that experience, Julie's a registered nurse. She's going for a master's in public health, and she's very well informed and has been very much involved in every aspect of planning for our return, going above and beyond. So I couldn't be happier with Julie Samard, and I think everybody in the district would agree with that. she's gone above and beyond. As you know, Stacy Buden, our new HR director, has done an incredible job stepping up and really supporting staff with their questions and their special situations, working closely with Julie and with our health director. It's really been a team effort, the two of them, myself and our team, just really working on everything on a case-by-case basis. Also, the work that Julie did with our nurses in preparing for our return with it was about a 40-minute webinar for health and safety measures that are expected across the district. And we hosted a webinar before staff came back to help them to feel more comfortable about returning. And then we also had the first day of their professional learning, again, that Dave will talk about, thanks to the 3 days that this board approved for shortening the school student year to 177 days as the state allowed. In August when I asked for that, I appreciate that. It was well used, as you'll hear soon. But the video that all the staff saw, every member of the staff saw before they came back, or the first day they came back, was really well done by Julie and by the nurses in each building who helped to produce that. So between that, the information, all the PPE that we ordered, the work by our facilities department, if you just walk around our buildings, I didn't do a presentation on it, and I probably could have, but all the, you can see I call them the Jersey barriers in the high school with the two-way hallway there, but from the signage, if you go in any school, it's an interesting test if you can follow the directions. But, so I've been in all the schools, and there's clear arrows everywhere, and, the dots about how to keep your social distance, and just the training the teachers and the staff have done on that, and the videos. It's really been incredible to watch. So, Steve Bussell and Scott Martin in the facility department, Sandy Bouchard, ordering of the tents that are used for outdoor spaces, all the sanitizing, sanitizing gels and the hand washing techniques and lessons, everything that's been done to really put those mitigation strategies in place to keep everyone safe are paying dividends. And I hope that it helps to keep us open for, we haven't done a school closing, a shutdown. You see in some of the districts where they are doing that because they have what's considered by the CDC's guidelines as an outbreak. And they just sent out those guidelines again from our health department, what constitutes an outbreak. And we have not had an outbreak. We've had, we've had 3 confirmed cases that I've notified the district about at 3 different schools, unrelated to one another. And we did a case-by-case analysis and contact tracing, and everyone who was impacted by that was notified immediately and quarantined appropriately based on the Department of Public Health's guidelines for schools. So far, I'm afraid to say it, but there's no wood here, but yeah, you have wood there or there. Things are going well, and people feel, from the feedback I'm receiving, very pleased and safe, and that kids are learning, and we have some sense of normalcy despite, that was shared with me today by a couple of the principals that, the kids have reflected that, once they're in class, it's different in the hallways, and it seems empty here at the high school with passing time with only 300 kids or so, but once you're in the classrooms, the teaching and learning is normal, and it's just being done in a different way, creatively with technology. So some ongoing challenges and needs, and then I'll wrap up this part of the presentation. We continue to learn from our experience in this model. It is very new, despite all the technology we have and all the expertise we have. One thing that I'll say that I didn't say in my highlights part is that I receive every message that's sent to an entire school faculty or staff. So I'm copied on that just to keep me in the loop. It's just something I've asked for. And I see the incredible level of sharing that happens between teachers and other staff members. I have this great strategy. I found this awesome resource. You should try this. This is how you do it. And they'll make a screencastify between those and the ones that our technology department are making for our teachers to really support them in their professional learning. They're helping each other. The amount of collaboration that's happening digitally, virtually is really impressive. So as I said, we continue to learn, but we have a staff that's working together to teach one another. So Another challenge has been just attempting to modify our existing plans with constantly changing, state requirements and guidance. As I said, 13 addenda to the original state plan. So you're remaining fluid. That's why when I originally, presented the plan to this board, I didn't ask for the board's approval, because every time you change it, you really should approve it again. So it was a plan that I submitted on behalf of the district, and I think it was the right move, given all the changes the slight modification we've had to make. Staffing issues, I will say that with, the early cases before the kids came back, and the contact tracing and the quarantining that we had to do, it did pose some interesting challenges, and it took the creativity of our leadership and working with the substitutes that we had in place, and to really cover all the needs that we had. We were able to do it. I would say that if it became a more significant need for coverage, I could see where it'd be extremely challenging to continue to have the schools open and teaching. So we've been fortunate that it's been very limited. Our attendance has been incredibly good, actually, with our staff. So I'm grateful for that. And we continue to look for additional staffing solutions. The lack of available daily subs, and something I'm going to touch on shortly, I might as well just weave it in here. The substitute teacher pay rate has been $85 a day, and that's true of our building subs who are here every day. They agree to come in 5 days a week, and we have 3 at each of the elementary schools and 3 at the middle school and 4 at the high school, because that represents a typical absence. And instead of scrambling to find subs you don't know to fill in those positions, you have someone who's going to be in your school and they're used every day. The decision was made to increase that rate because the minimum wage is going up. Well, it went up. I know this because my son's working at Dunkin' Donuts now. Went up to $12 an hour. So when you factor in the hours that they're working, it was very little over minimum wage to be a building substitute teacher going into all different, going to different classrooms, taking on a pretty challenging role. So the decision was made to increase the sub rate to $95 per day for the building subs, and to also increase it for the subs that have been with us coming back for the third year. So at the start of the third year, because it's tough to get subs, and some other districts pay, a lot more for subs. This is a good district to sub in for sure. But, when we're looking at retaining subs for situations where we need them, we thought it made sense, because the minimum wage is going to go up again to $13 an hour, and then we won't be in keeping with the minimum wage. So anyway, I just wanted to inform you of that change. I talked about it with our leadership team, in human resources, and with Sam Adlerstein, our business manager. And the consensus was that a change needed to happen in order to keep subs, because we did lose some building subs who decided to go elsewhere and make more money doing something that's much less stressful. So just finishing out, looking, with the masks on, you do get thirsty. So people are taking, water breaks, but the water fountains have been shrink wrapped basically to turn them off without turning them off. So they're not able to be used. But through a creative solution, we do have clearance to have bottle filling spigots put onto the water fountains. So for a very inexpensive amount, we're going to be doing 5 at the high school and then 4 at the middle school, and we're going to take it from there. Steve Bustle and his team are going to do that with our internal staff. So that was a problem that we found a solution to, because we were asking kids to bring in water, and we bought a bunch of cases of water, but it's going pretty fast because with the mask on, you do want to take a sip of water and put your mask right back on. And I know you have to be careful with that as well, but you do get thirsty when you have the mask on for much of the day. Just maintaining the rigor of instruction in the supports necessary for our students in the hybrid model has been a challenge, but we're doing better than ever with that, and I'm really impressed with our efforts. And then ensuring the shift of instruction with the social distancing and the mitigation factors. So instead of having a small group right in front of you with 3 students who need extra support, you have to get really creative with that and use the technology that you have, and really use a student-centered learning approach. So that's just a quick overview. Well, not that quick, but overview of the highlights and some of the challenges that we continue to experience. As you know, on Friday of this week, or you may not remember that deadline, but I did say by Friday, September 18th, I'd be making a decision, and I'm sure you do recall that, as to what we're going to do October 5th and beyond. So I'm really looking closely at how we're doing. We're doing really well. Other districts that did decide to go full open, either K through 8, a lot of districts, like Southington, Bristol, Meriden, Wallingford did K through 8 full return. So I'm keeping an eye on how things are going there. And I'm sorry, not Bristol. Bristol did hybrid. Meriden, Southington, Wallingford, but New Britain's fully hybrid. So, I shared the data with parents and families and with the board about how many districts started in a hybrid, how many are planning on staying in hybrid. So it's a big consideration, but I'll be looking at a lot of factors and making that decision on Friday, and I'll certainly, be in communication with the board throughout this week as I start to lean in one direction or another. Any questions on that piece of the report? Okay, Becky?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you talked about how children that need a lot of special attention for school are going the 4 days. My concern is for the kids that don't need 100% special ed, but do have IEPs and are having a hard time learning at home. Are we putting anything special in place for that? How are we dealing with that?
Yes, that's something Vicki Trzynski and Christina Kiley, our student services leadership, has put a lot of thought and time into. So what they're doing is working on a case management with the case managers, making sure those students are getting the extra supports through the paraprofessionals and the tutors that are scheduled to work with them more than the other students would normally get. So they're getting additional supports and attention through our personnel who are assigned to them. That's what we did as well last year in the spring when we were out for the fully remote learning, and we learned from that, and we've bolstered those systems. But yes, so decisions were made based on whether or not those students could engage in remote learning to the degree that they could do remote learning on the 3 days a week and come in the 2 days a week versus students who would not be able to benefit at all from remote learning. So those students were asked if they would come in. Some students who have more significant needs, the parents have kept them home because of fears of them getting ill. I don't know if that answered your question, but we've thought about each student with special needs or in 504s and the level of their needs, and a lot of work is being done by our student services team to plan around those needs.
So one other follow-up. If a parent feels that their child cannot learn at home and they have an IEP, can the district work with them to have the child in 4 days a week, but not be 100% in special ed?
Yeah, I would say that if they would need to contact Vicki with student services. We haven't gone in that direction. We've tried to kind of maintain, based on their IEP and what we believe they would be able to benefit from. And this is a short term, as I said, the plan's going to change. It could change October 5th after October 2nd. But if, they have parents with students with special needs have, the PPT, rights under IDEA. So if they believe their children's needs aren't being met, they could call a PPT, which we do virtually, and decisions could be made about their model of instruction. Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions? So I do have, for my next part of the presentation, superintendent's report, this part is around COVID-19 case management and communication systems. I have Julie Simard, our COVID liaison, on the line. I don't know if Julie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Steve.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So, I'll give a quick overview, and then I'd rather hear your voice than mine. So Well, if you can fill in some of the other details that I leave out, but
Sure.
basically Julie has worked really closely along with Stacy Buden, with our regional health director, Shane Lockwood. And whenever we're notified about a potential case or symptoms, actually, you're going to do a much better job at this, Julie. So why don't you just give us the overview of how you're handling the communications and just kind of the overall case management, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we have guidance from the state, which is the decision tree that we follow, and that tells us how to handle students that may be sick. But we're also working very closely with the local pediatricians to review those individual cases as well as test results, just to make sure that it's safe for students to come back. We've had very little illness in the district, and families are doing a really great job at keeping students home who are sick, taking students to the doctor who are not feeling well, and then having those students tested if the doctor feels that it's necessary. We've had a few cases that have tested positive, and we've very carefully looked at who working with Department of Public Health, we looked at who those individual contacts were. And then those individuals were asked to stay home in quarantine for the 14 days. That's part of the guidance that we follow as in our decision tree that would happen.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie about that? And I did, I will say, I guess trial and error. So, or I don't know if it's error, but as far as the communication about positive cases, initially I was hesitant to give, the school. I just it kept it more global, but I realized that I created more. Sometimes you create more concern by giving less detail, and which is kind of surprising to me to give not enough detail. But I didn't give the school where we had positive cases or kind of the situation. I did say we had 2 positive staff members before the kids had come back, and then a positive student case. So I did seek further guidance on that with the State Department of Health call on the following morning, which was a Tuesday morning. It was after a 3-day weekend. I sent that message on a Monday night, 8 o'clock. And they said you can give whether it's kind of optional whether you say if it's a student or a staff member, but you should give the school just so that there's a sense of, and you can give whether it's a student or staff as well, as long as you're not saying, a student in so-and-so's class, in this grade, so you're not narrowing it down to the point where someone could really easily figure it out because you violate HIPAA laws around privacy. So I was trying to balance that line, but I learned that it cost me about, probably 3 hours of answering emails and phone calls the next day with, what school was it at? And once I got that guidance, I was answering everybody. I didn't want to send out another blast saying, oh, by the way, this was, maybe I should have. So I live and learn every day. I guess we all do. But so in the future, as I sent out in my message on Friday to the families, I will make note when there's a positive case in the district, I'll notify, obviously we'll do the contact tracing and notification through Julie and Stacy and the health department. But then I will send a notification to the families of that school saying we had a positive case in your school, and also to the district saying, there was a positive case at a school, and I'll name the school. So I guess that's all I have for that. Are there questions about that piece though? No? Okay. Yes, Rebecca.
The only question I have, we've spoken, and I think Julie's doing an amazing job, is what are we using for guidance? Like, I know like Bristol, their first day in school was today. So it's going to be hard to have, data from some of the surrounding towns when you're looking at a date of September 18th. So I'm just curious exactly, what we're using for data for the area.
The districts are getting a weekly health metrics from the State Department of Public Health.
Okay, so using the state metrics.
Yeah, and they're going to give us based on town, but they said not to base it. They wouldn't base it on just town unless it was like an outbreak, but, look at the region.
Right.
So look at the regional metrics and we're going to get that each week. So I'll use that. Initially the decision was made based on the metrics, although the metrics could have supported a full reopening. In all honesty, and I've said that to parents that have questioned it, but I think coming out of being fully remote for a period of time, the fears that were out there that were being expressed to me by parents and by children and by staff members, a lot of fear from staff members, to be fully transparent, coming back from being with your family and teaching remotely and then going back to, if you're in buildings full of classes, just learning all the mitigation strategies and teaching those to a full school would have been a challenge. So it was a judgment call. I've talked to health experts, state representatives, and they thought it was the right move, given what we're getting, going into from where we're coming out of. So, I would do the same thing again. But yes, I'll use the state metrics and looking at our local, what's happening locally. And, I think we're in a really good place. As I said in our board meeting, the last board meeting, we're stepping into the pool on the steps. We're not jumping in the deep end into dark water where we don't know what's at the bottom. I think it was the way to go. So I appreciate the board's support on that. I'll move on to I'm sorry, I could go on and on. You know me. Just going on to financial discussion really quickly. No, did I skip? That's right. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about, just to give you an update on the end of the year closeout, and you have that in your board packet. It's on I believe it's on the consent agenda. Yes, it is item D on the consent agenda, and you should have it in front of you. But I just wanted to give you an update that, and it also kind of dovetails with what Chairwoman Puglisi had shared earlier with, as far as the budget. We closed, and this is from Sam Adlerstein's final report, but for the closeout of fiscal year 2019-20, we closed the year with a balance of $665,290 with some changes still to come, even though the last day of in-person school was on March 13th, 2020. Friday the 13th, we all remember it well. Teaching and learning continued. Our staff remained engaged in implementation of and execution of a new and different model of learning, often developing it as we went. And in your report, it's reflected in the 8 different line descriptions of salaries, benefits, professional services are the first 3. So it's reflected in those lines. In addition, we took the opportunity to engage our custodial and maintenance staff in building projects that could be completed during this time. They were really busy. We kept them working the entire time, except we gave them 1 week during April vacation. The largest areas of savings were in transportation and tuition. As of the end of the year, we were still in discussions with DECO over an agreement for payments on days that buses did not run. That's largely settled at this point, with the final cost expected to be $43,000 higher than what was encumbered in the chart below that you've received. So tuition and services for a number of outplaced children were adjusted because we had to renegotiate contracts for outplaced students who were no longer receiving services from that outplacement center, but receiving them from our district remotely. There's also a transfer of the capital that we had discussed last year of the total of $270,250. I'm trying to remember what month that was when we did the capital amount where from anticipated realized savings, I think it was April, where it ended up being $270,250 as an offset to the capital budget. And we were, the town council was able to deliver a 0% tax increase to the town based on that, working together with realized savings. This was agreed upon during the 2021 budget process so that the PHS entrance canopy, the student Chromebooks, staff Chromebooks and laptops and makerspace Steam hardware would all be retained in the capital budget. So those all remained. From the remaining balance, the MSP renovation project requires some upfront costs, and we talked about this with Robert Lee over the summer. Amounts to be determined. As you know, we went to the state and talked about the renovation, the start of the middle school renovation project, which is due within the next couple of years, and we have to start that process. Those costs are presumably will later be reimbursed by the project. We believe that keeping to the planned schedule would result in the highest reimbursement rate, currently expected to be about 65%, but adjusted each year. In addition, we're currently spending significant amounts to reopen and maintain our schools in a safe manner in response to COVID-19. A lot of those costs are covered by grants, and there's been additional grant funding potentially promised from the state. We're hoping to cover as much of that as we can through those grant funds, but there may be some need for, additional funds that weren't budgeted for. But, as I said, we'll have to update you on that as we go. Much of the spending will be covered by the CARES Act and Coronavirus Relief Fund, yet our costs are yet to be reimbursed, and the exact amount of funding is yet to be determined. So that was a summary by Sam with a little bit of ad lib by me. So that's kind of where we left off. We ended up not using all of our budget from last year, and that was absorbed back by the town. And I believe that's included in the amount that Chairwoman Puglisi had shared earlier. So, all in all, I think we did the purchasing we needed to prepare for the year, using grant money and reallocating some funds. But we were able to also basically give back or not use over $665,000. So that is the end of the year closeout for 1920. Any questions on that I could try to answer? Okay. I mentioned about the food services changes for free breakfast and lunch, and I know Chairwoman Tyrell is very much aware of all of this, and in her career out at Advance and working with different districts with food service. So that's something that, it's important for kids to have food nutrition. So I'm excited to have our new director who's really going to have some dynamic leadership here. She's great. I did want to share the vision document update, which is item E under my report. And then I get to stop talking and let Mr. Lewandowski share the PD or professional learning report. You have a copy of it. It's not a very good copy, I'll be honest with you. I'll make better ones, but I wanted to get, your insight and approval. So the Plainville Community Schools, it's big. It's kind of like one of those, for your meal, it's like a table
Do we have to
placemat.
put these on the wall or something? Or are they supposed to
Well,
be
these are a
framed?
little blurry, so I'll get you a better copy on a better stock paper, but despite the actual visual being a little blurry, the vision's very clear, and the board has supported the vision, and you had input in the vision revisions that we did last summer before school started, and we really focused on those key actions, core actions that would support the goals that would then in turn support the vision statement, which for some reason is not at the top of this vision. Is it on? No, it's not on that slide either. Okay. Can you go back to the slide before that, Kevin? See, I'm glad I didn't print any card stock. So yeah, so as you can see, to inspire and prepare lifelong learners to follow their passion, engage in their communities, and positively impact our global society. Had it memorized. So that should be at the top of this new vision document as well. That remains, but I guess what I'm trying to share is that when I met with our leadership team, our central office team, and then our entire administrative team, and we had a summit over the summer on August 17th, we looked at the document and really thought about what are the most important things for what do we really need to ensure that we support and bolster in our programs and our services for the district. And we put these underlying themes at the bottom, kind of the foundation of our vision for this year, centered around equity, social and emotional learning, then on mastery and recovering students to master the essential skills that they need in order to move forward, especially given the potential gaps that happen from the different learning experiences that all of our students have when they're at home. Not everybody has a parent who's going to sit down with them and support them in their work. Some of them can't do that because they're maybe essential employees, and they're doing the best they can and having an older older sibling watching their child. There's, I think Lynn Legoy said it best when she said, she has 405 students, whatever it was. And, those 405 students have 405 different learning environments because, everybody's family situation, home dynamic is different. That's the hard part about remote learning. I know what we're doing in my home, and we're doing the best we can. Everybody does the best they can with what they have, but it's different in every household. So anyway, getting back to the point here, we did put some kind of gold arrows to highlight the core areas. Not that the other areas are not important, but if we're to focus on some key drivers this year, you can see them, and I don't necessarily need to read them, but our work around the portrait of the graduate is critical. And as you heard, a convocation, those 5 pillars, those qualities are so critical to the work that we're doing. Being collaborative and communicative and innovative and mindful and resilient. That's going to be a focus of what we're trying to instill in our kids. Supporting the physical, social, and emotional needs and the growth of all students and staff. That's critical this year, especially with everything that everyone's facing and been through. Ensuring equity and access to curriculum. So, this year, as you know, you had approved the Lily Corniel to move up to that new position that took the place of a previous curriculum supervisor. And she's jumped right in with both feet and both hands, and she's been outstanding already, just making sure that all kids have the same access, really working hard to make sure that all of our kids have what they need to be successful. We want all of our kids to achieve and to be successful and to get what they want out of life and to be ready when they leave Plainville schools. So sometimes that means we have to provide some more services supports to get all students to that point where we can say they're ready. Lily's going to be instrumental in that work, and I'm excited about the opportunities there. Using professional learning communities, they're so critical to everything we're doing right now. The communication, Dave will talk about that some. Implementing learning targets to align our instructional core around the power, the core standards and so that we're not trying to cover every standard with a skim coating, but really going deep into the ones that matter the most. And then, under mastery, just improving our interventions of supports, really knowing where kids are and then bridging gaps to get them to where they need to be mastering the standards. So this is just it's a quick snapshot, but it's the same vision document with just a bit of a highlight and a focus on some core areas and some underlying themes. Any questions on the updated vision? Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Dave Lewandowski, my very hardworking, talented, and intelligent assistant superintendent, who's doing a great job. I don't give him enough credit. He's, we've spent way more time together than we've spent with our families over the summer, right, Dave? And he's done a great job. So he's going to be talking about a professional learning report from the 6 days in the summer, but also kind of the bigger picture. And I want to thank Tawana Graham Douglas for her assistance in putting together the presentation that Dave's going to give.
Thank you for those kind words, Steve. And we've been in close contact, but we've been socially distancing while we've been around each other, so we're following the rules.
We have.
So I'm going to give first a narrative overview of the professional learning days that we've had. So I handed out that sheet to all the board members that has basically the breakdown of the 6 days that we had professional learning for. So as I'm reading, if you get bored with some of my words, you can look through the actual times and what was planned for each day. And if you're listening at home, you're just going to have to listen to me because you don't have that. And then after that, I'll just go through a couple slides that will give you a little more detail for those days. So this report will serve to update the Board of Education and our school community on the professional learning work that has transpired prior to the start of school. As you now know, much work occurred over the summer months to prepare for a safe district opening for the 2020-21 academic school year. Due to the extensive measures that needed to occur to transform our normal school operations to what was necessary during this pandemic, we took full advantage of the Connecticut State Department of Education's waiver for the school year to be modified from 180 days to 177 days, thanks to the board's approval, so that we could use those 3 days to train staff. So those 3 days, combined with the days we added at the end of last year in anticipation of a different reopening model, provided us with 6 consecutive days of professional learning and work days prior to the students entering the school buildings. With these days, we were able to provide comprehensive professional learning for all staff, including health and safety training to understand our protocols and practices regarding mitigation strategies to prevent infection and to help protect and keep students and staff safe. The use of new technology to support instructional delivery in our hybrid model. Collaboration across grade levels and departments to establish units of instruction, priority standards, and curriculum pacing. And also goals for continuing our work with social and emotional learning across the district. So many positive comments were shared regarding these comprehensive professional learning days. And beyond the instructional preparation necessary in a hybrid model of instruction, these days also serve to put staff more at ease and lessen the anxiety of physically returning to the schools. Because the pandemic and health guidelines still called for distancing and small groupings of individuals when indoors, all of the professional learning was accomplished through technology. Not only did this allow for creative modes to deliver the information, it also allowed staff to practice the same instructional methods they would be using with the students. And time was allocated each day for the specific purpose of practicing what was learned. Thanks to Tawana Graham Douglas and her curriculum team, a comprehensive and meaningful series of professional learning experiences were delivered by various teachers, administrators, and other staff members in alignment with our district goals that were shared by Steve. On September 22nd, the Professional Development and Evaluation Committee will meet to determine what the next 2 district professional learning days will entail, the one in November and the one in March. This committee is made up of teachers, administrators, and central office staff to ensure that decisions made reflect the needs of district staff and align with our district goals. Surveys of staff regarding their thoughts on the 6 professional learning days will also be taken into account when planning for these 2 remaining professional development days. The committee will also look to recommend to the superintendent the adoption of the state teacher and administrator evaluation flexibilities. These state flexibilities put an emphasis on meeting the social and emotional needs of the students, ensuring educational equity with regard to accessing instruction, especially remote instruction, and also strengthening the rigor and delivery of remote instruction. These areas of emphasis by the state are in direct alignment with Plainville's vision and strategic plan. The copies you received of the slide deck serve to illustrate the format of the 6 professional learning days and what was accomplished. So if you look at the slides now, those 3 district goals are what we are aligning all our professional learning opportunities with. Our funding and all our grants are all aligned with those goals. So equity, making sure we have equal educational access and opportunities for all students across the district. For social emotional learning, creating environments where all staff and students feel safe, welcomed, and supported. And I can't reiterate how important those 6 days were to make everyone feel safe and feel like they understood what was necessary to go in and actually hit the ground running that first day of school. And mastery, making sure students and staff reach their fullest potential with the appropriate supports and challenges to meet their individual needs. Go to that next one. You can actually skip that one too, Kev. All right, so before Tawana and her curriculum team set up the professional learning days, a survey was sent to staff to just figure out how do they learn best? What modes of professional learning would allow them to be most effective? And overwhelmingly, the area that they said worked the best and fit them the best for their learning was online webinars and videos that would help. So a lot of the professional learning that we did took that into account and did those forms and modes of instructional delivery. If you go to the next slide, Kev. We also had a YouTube influencer who was a former teacher and now spends time teaching other educators how to use technology in a most efficient and effective way. And a lot of our teachers were already familiar with this individual. So he was a hit and he presented a few different sessions for our teachers and was really effective. And now we have plans to actually have a few more teachers go and get trained through him to come back and present in our district. Next slide. So voice and choice is also extremely important to engage learners, whether you're adults or students. So in that chart, and this is where that YouTube influencer was part of this, where we had different sessions that you can choose. This allowed for individual preference and choice, and various sessions were developed to meet the technology needs of our staff members. And again, we were using new technology, we wanted to give as much practice as possible, but we're also using a lot of new applications to deliver instruction. Some teachers are strong in some areas and some applications, and they didn't choose those. They chose areas where they really wanted to learn more about those. And again, this is something we're trying to do with our students, really make it more centered and student-centered and staff-centered, and really make it meaningful for everyone who's participating in these sessions. Next slide, Kev. So that's just an example and a picture of 2 of the sessions that were going on. You see all the different faces in the grids that were participating and presenting. So we had teachers presenting to other teachers, and which makes it even more meaningful. And again, Steve alluded to this fact, we have so much collaboration occurring across district and so many people willing to help that it's just such a great thing to watch when you see everyone helping each other to learn and to get better at their craft. Next slide. All right, so this one's titled Professional Learning in Action. The last 2 slides just show you what's happening in the classroom. So you're taking that professional learning that our teachers had in those 6 days, and now they're applying it to the students right away in classrooms, and they didn't miss a beat. As Steve said, walking around and seeing how the teachers are skillfully and strategically working with kids in front of them and kids that are at home remotely is amazing to watch. I went into one kindergarten room where the students live in the classroom have manipulatives, learning how to count and take away. And you look on the screen and you have the Promethean board of about 10 other kids who have the manipulatives at home and are doing it at home as well. And it was just amazing to watch. So really, if you get a chance to just see some of this in action, it's something you wouldn't have thought about a year and a half ago happening just on daily instruction. So it is really a joy to watch. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a couple more examples of that, where you see the kids on the screen doing their work. You see some of the parents are at home helping the kids while they're on the screen, and you have the kids in front of us live. So amazing work. I couldn't be more proud of not only the staff, but Tawana Graham Douglas and her team for really meeting the needs of all staff. And then Kev with technology and his technology team doing videos to really make sure that everyone felt comfortable with new technology, because there's a lot of anxiety coming in about what is it going to look like. We knew we had to, really increase the level of rigor and what we were doing with our remote students. So this is the path we chose, and it's really been a huge success. So again, I couldn't be more happy with our staff and with our administration and central office who, put the work in to make sure that this could be successful for students. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, in addition to my the vision document that was shared, we also decided on 2 theories of action. Theories of action are kind of our big bets for the district that we believe if we do them well, then positive things will happen. And it's included in the presentation that I shared with the board members earlier. I sent you a link to it, but our first theory of action is a repeat from last year because we feel it was so well written and powerful, and it remains true. We kept that one after a lot of deliberation, but if we use high-level PLCs and other collaborative structures to analyze both student performance and instructional practices and shift instruction to meet the needs of all students, then student achievement will increase. So it's kind of our first, I hate to call it a big bet, but it's an important, it's something that we believe in is going to drive positive change. Our second theory of action that we all agreed upon, at our summit, we kind of submitted different ideas and synthesized those ideas, and we all agreed with this next statement. If we provide safe, supportive, and equitable learning environments that support the social and emotional needs of our learning community, then students and staff will thrive and achieve at high levels. So that was our second theory of action that we had also agreed upon. So anyway, I want to thank Mr. Lewandowski for the overview about professional learning. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address them as best we can. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
You already spoke about the substitute teacher pay,
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you very much. Any questions in general for the superintendent before we move on? Kathy Wells, you still there?
Yes.
All right, good, Kathy.
Hey, Kat.
Hello.
Oh, Brent
Hi,
too?
Brent.
Okay. Hi, Brent.
Both
How
good.
are you?
Brent, got any questions?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. So that brings us to our board subcommittee reports. I don't believe we have a student here unless we're hiding her somewhere. I don't think so, right?
There was, Catherine is going to be with us, but
Yes.
we didn't invite her today.
Okay.
Should have.
Do we have a facilities finance subcommittee report? I know we had a meeting.
Yes, we did. We had a meeting on June 25th. This was also a board meeting, but it was also a combined facility meeting. Most of that information, the detail of that is in the IDC, the minutes of our June 25th. Just to highlight that on that day, which is a difference from figures that the superintendent gave us, but at that date, we had about 2,301,226 in unexpended funds. Of that, 1,828,817 were encumbrances, with a leaving at that time realized savings of 471,409. As a result of our discussions, it was agreed that the additional expenses of the PHS secure entrance of $46,250, student Chromebooks of $135,000, staff Chromebooks and laptops of $65,000, and the makerspace and Steam total capital addition to the capital expenses that were not included in the May 4th food budget. That totaled in $270,250. That was that meeting. At that time, also, the matter with DATCO was unresolved, that is, the superintendent's report has been subsequently resolved. With that, what we had to settle was $42,000 there. That was also discussed. Since this was a board meeting as well, the approval of the encumbrance cost of $1,828,817 was also approved at that meeting.
Policy subcommittee, anything to report? Is that you, Crystal? No. Curriculum, I don't believe we had a meeting. Curriculum and outreach, we also did not meet. Are there any reports for any of the PACs or PTOs?
Now, the PAC, I've been in contact
High
with
school?
high school principal Carl Johnson, and we're trying to establish contact with the high school PAC and have them, when they get organized, we move forward with that.
Okay. Anything from Top Line?
Yes, yeah. Top Line is off to a start with their fundraising. They are encouraging all families to participate in at least one fundraiser during the school year. Obviously, several things have been canceled for the beginning part and fundraising, so it's greatly appreciated anybody that gets involved. Their first fundraiser is Cherrydale, and it began on 9/11 and ends on 9/25. And both brochures to order are online, and you can email Top Line PTO with any questions. They're also doing a few things where you don't have to put in so much effort, like Script Zone. Many of the stores you shop at regularly offer gift cards with a % back to the PTO. So while you're buying your gift cards, you can help out the schools that way. Teflon also has their textiles collection boxes out where you can donate used clothing, shoes, stuffed animals, and other textiles. And the PTO receives a small percentage back on that. The first PTO meeting is on the 17th. It will be virtual, or via Facebook Live on the Teflon PTO Facebook page at 7 p.m. And they also emailed out information on how to help out with box tops and grocery cards. Grocery cards are another easy way where you just register your card and they get a percentage back, as well as Amazon Smile.
Okay, thank you. Anything to report from Linden Street School?
No, not yet. No report.
How about the middle school?
No report.
Okay, and lastly, Wheeler?
Every time. I just got a quick email from Mr. Batchelder, and he sent me some pictures. The kids are doing read aloud during snack time. They're using their new tent for snack time as well. And they're it's an example of a classroom doing part of the ruler program. So they're working on that every day to help kids how they feel and how they can work together to make each other feel better throughout the day.
Awesome. Thank you. Correct Council is meeting next, I think it's Wednesday. Yeah, it's the 16th of this month. So no report yet. And I don't have a chairperson's report. I was too exhausted. After looking at all the, I just have to say, it's the amount of work and planning that went into this school year before it even started. It's phenomenal. And, as soon as the year starts, all the adjustments are happening constantly. So it is just an exhausting process. So I thank everyone for all their efforts, from administration, teaching staff, and custodial staff, and even the folks in the cafeteria, because they're going through a lot of change too. Really appreciate everybody's efforts. Take care of kids. That brings us to unfinished business, of which we have none. New business, board open forum. Anybody have anything they want to say?
I just had one thing, there are some faculty members that had to retire early because of the COVID situations and distance learning. And I just would like to give a vote of thanks, because I know some of those folks, for the outstanding job that they have done with the Plano Community Schools over the years. And I'm really sad to see them go. They are a loss to the system. And the conditions that force that. And I think we should also recognize their service and also appreciate the difficulty of the person they had. In addition to that, I think there are a number of families out there now. The good thing that I can see coming out of the COVID situation is that there are a lot of families out there now that are really beginning to appreciate the value of teachers and the education system. And so I think we have to be heartened by that a little bit.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say thank you to the teachers and all of the staff. I watched with my boys, 2nd grade and 5th grade. The teachers are coming on and they're making this look so smooth, and I'm sure it cannot be. But even when the boys are at home and they're doing their learning, teachers are doing a phenomenal job at getting back with any questions. My boys have childcare. They've been able to work with me and get them always what they need. So they're doing a phenomenal job, and just thank you.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to, let's see, it's not time for the special education report, right?
No,
If
next
we're in
month.
September, anyway, but
Yeah.
that's where we are. Turf committee report, I think you were going to do something quickly.
Yes, and it's in your packet, but the turf fund currently has a balance of $100,208, up from $99,501 reported to you last May. We had agreed we'd have 2 turf committee meetings per year. Just to give everyone updates, we recorded a small amount of interest income and a catch-up payment from the soccer club. So that's where that addition came from. Due to the COVID epidemic, use of the fields has been restricted and partner fees have been waived since spring of 2020. During this period, we're taking the opportunity to assess the condition of the field and our maintenance practices toward maximizing our field's useful life and hopefully extending that as long as possible. We reached out to professionals involved in the installation. In town and school facilities, personnel are involved, so they're going to do a kind of an assessment analysis of the field and make sure that we're on track for maintaining our field to the degree we can and get a very good long life out of the field before we have to do any replacement. But that's our current status. I want to thanks Sam and Steve and Chris Farrell. I know and Dave Emery came over and did a walkthrough, and that's our next step, having that evaluation. That's the turf report.
Thank you. Any questions on turf? I think that's a smart use of our time here, so that's great. And then we have a request for the approval of the vision document that we went over earlier. So if we can get a motion.
Madam Chairman, I request approval of the vision document as presented tonight for 2021.
All right, motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Crystal seconds. Any questions or comments or anything that you want to?
It will have the vision statement at the top. I apologize.
Okay.
It will. I apologize for that.
I just, I think that I like the focus, the specific focuses and the areas of focus. I think they're appropriate anytime, but particular right now, I think these are some areas that we really need to focus on. So thank you for that. So if there's no comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. You must have all whispered because I didn't hear anybody. Now I am going to ask for a request for approval of the Education Association of Plainville's a memorandum of understanding with the teaching staff in relation to COVID. I know, was this, yeah, it was in our packet. I don't know if there was, if we can do let's do a motion in a second and then see if anybody has questions. How's that?
Madam Chair, I request approval of the Education Association Plainville memorandum of understanding for our teachers.
Okay. Second. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Rebecca, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? I will just tell you that this is something that Steve worked really, really hard for the teaching staff and took some time to get to this point. And, glad that everybody can collaborate, come together and, do what's right in the end. So I do appreciate all the work that went into getting this done. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion carries. And now we're going to request to approve the basically the same thing, but this time for the professionals and tutors. It's also a memorandum of understanding given the COVID situation. So can we do a motion in a second on that?
Madam Chairman, request approval for the CSEA, SEIU Local 2001 Paraprofessional Tutors Memorandum of Understanding.
All right, motion. Can I get a second? Second, Rebecca again. Any questions or comments on this one? And same thing goes here. I know there's a lot of work put into this and blood, sweat, and probably some tears too, I guess.
Pretty close.
But they were all Steve's. But, we really appreciate everybody's efforts on this as well. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you. That passes. And also the request to ratify the contract extension agreement with the paraprofessionals and the tutors. That was going to be something that was going to have to be dealt with this current year, correct?
Right. It was, would have needed to have been negotiated for the next typically 3-year term
Over the course of
over the
this.
summer, basically,
Right.
this past summer. So, we had negotiated an agreement. I shared, basically we had budgeted for a 2% increase when we put our budget together, projecting where we'd like to end up with that group. And they were willing to accept that with the step freeze with 2% increase, and then 0.5% increase in their insurance copay. So it's a 1-year extension to their previous contract, and we'll be negotiating the full contract next summer. So, given the financial climate right now, and I'm sure it'll be interesting next summer as well, but it's difficult for both sides to negotiate a contract with any long-term, there's different ways you can handle it, but we thought in this situation, it made sense to come in at a number we had budgeted for that we thought was fair and reasonable for maintaining, retaining our staff we rely on, but also, kind of putting it off for a year until we have to do the 3-year negotiation.
Okay. Can we have a motion on that?
Madam Chairman, I request that we ratify the CSEA SEIU Local 2001 contract extension agreement for paraprofessional Vancouver.
All right, you can get a second.
Second.
Crystal second, Kathy seconding. Kathy, you sound almost like God or
Kathy.
something. It's like, whoo.
Come on.
Oh, very cool.
It
We
is
heard Brent
cool.
too. We heard Brent on the last one.
It's so clear. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions on this one? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. If no one has anything on this agenda that they would like to remove, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, and can I get a second?
Second.
There we go. Kathy Wells seconding that. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All righty. And our most favorite motion of the night, the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Who said that?
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole. Nicole, motion to adjourn. Somebody second it?
Second.
All right, then we'll get Brent on the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody in person and hear you from above.